Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Fuse, the host of Fusion News. Today is February 6th, 2018, and we have another big show for you right now. I am on the phone with Steve Perrault from Bleacher Report and Section 10 podcast. Steve, how are you doing today? I know it's a few days after the Patriots lost in the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles. I know I took yesterday off because it was a disappointing and really disappointing loss for the Patriots. How are we doing today?
Not too bad. I mean, it honestly, it could be worse at this point. I'm sure we'll dive into this game. But if we're just talking right off the bat how I feel, honestly, it could be worse. So that at least is something that we can hang our head on.
It could be worse, definitely, because we could be talking about why Tom Brady's not coming back this season, but we aren't. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick both said that they have plans to come back next season, but two guys that were a big part in this Patriots Super Bowl, getting to the Super Bowl, was Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniels. They both left the Patriots. How will this affect the Patriots in the upcoming season?
I'm not really worried about it, honestly. I think a lot of people have been kind of flipping out, and they're basically using that as an excuse as to why this could be the end of the dynasty. The Patriots could be crumbling. I'm not really worried about that. I bet Greg Schiano probably comes in as defensive coordinator. That's Belichick's guy. He's known him for a while, respects him, knows what he can do. Obviously didn't have the best time in Tampa Bay, but has been able to flourish with Ohio State and elsewhere. I'm really not worried about it. I mean, how great, and I hate, the easy thing to do is when a team gives up a ton of points just to be like, oh, it's on the defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator's not out there making plays, so it's easy to throw Patricia under the bus here, but how much worse could the next guy be in a Super Bowl setting if they just gave up 41 points to Nick Foles, the Eagles? So I'm not really worried about it. Belichick is the real defensive coordinator anyway, so if you blame someone, blame him. And that's obviously the hot thing to do in the streets right now is to blame Bill Belichick for losing the Super Bowl. But it's good for McDaniels. It's good for those guys. It's good for McDaniels, Patricia, even Mike Vrabel getting a job as a head coach. So you like seeing that. They typically don't have success wherever they go, which seems to be a trend, whether it be Romeo Cornell, Charlie Weiss. These guys don't seem to branch off from Bill's tree and really dominate elsewhere. So we'll see how they do. I think McDaniels took off that's a tough challenge, taking over the Colts. That's no guarantee there. Even with luck, you don't really know what you have right now at this point of his career. So we'll see how it goes. But again, I'm not overly worried about it. At the end of the day, the Pats have had a good amount of coordinators come in and out, and they've all had their fair share at either a crack at the Super Bowl or they've won Super Bowl. So I'm not worried about it.
See, one thing that surprised me about Bill Belichick's decision was to not play Malcolm Butler. And he came out this afternoon saying that nothing happened with him with a concert. I know there was reports that he was out partying all night and doing some not good things that would maybe reason why he didn't play in the game. But he said that he didn't do any of that, and that's just rumors. So do you really feel like Bill Belichick thought deep down that those guys that stepped in Malcolm Butler's spot were better than Malcolm Butler?
This is a tricky situation. I honestly think as the days trickle on, as the weeks carry on, we're going to find out more and more about this situation. For Malcolm Butler, this is a nightmare. This is the worst possible thing that could have happened for him because he's entering free agency. Let's say hypothetically he has a couple interceptions in the Super Bowl or he shuts down one of their receivers. I don't think it was going to be Jeffrey because you had Gilmore on Jeffrey. But let's say hypothetically he takes one of their guys out of the game and now Nick Foles has one less option. That would look really good for Malcolm Butler when everyone else is getting lit up and he's the one guy that's shutting down a receiver on the Eagles. So you head into free agency and you have that going. You have the interception in the Super Bowl and you can kind of show a path of general growth through his career. Obviously, this has been a tough season for Malcolm. This has not been a smooth year for Butler, and I think a lot of things go into the decision to not have him play in the Super Bowl. Well, we may never know the actual reasons, and everyone says that Bill owes it to us to tell us. He really doesn't. Like, when has Bill Belichick ever owed us anything? Like, he's gotten us to this point, and we've always kind of trusted Bill. I never really blame Bill for that much, but I don't think he needs to tell. Like, coaches make decisions based off of gut feeling sometimes. So he could have honestly felt that guys like Rowe, and trust me, the backups suck. They're not good. But he could have honestly felt that matchups-wise, Butler wasn't ready for the game. I mean, obviously it was a weird week for Malcolm. Regardless of what reports you believe or not, he was coming off the flu. He definitely was a day later than expected to Minnesota because he wasn't at media night on Monday. And I have to think that there was some kind of a a scuffle with the coaches or some kind of disagreement. There's absolutely no way that Butler goes into that game as close to healthy as possible and just doesn't play. He played every meaningful snap the entire season. He was in there 98% of the snaps, and I can almost guarantee you the 2% he wasn't in were just meaningless plays that were in blowouts. So I don't know. I mean, it's a tricky situation. I think a lot of things go into it. I try not to look at too many reports because everyone wants to have the big scoop here. Everyone wants to have like the oh no moment where it's like he, got in a fight with a teammate or something. Like, I don't think it's any of that. But at the end of the day, you can blame Bill if you want, but I don't think Bill Belichick is making that decision just off of a wild guess that he's not going to be a better matchup. I have to think a lot went into it. And you can get on Bill if you want. I mean, that's fine. You can blame Belichick. That's great. But we'll never really know how much of a difference Malcolm Butler could have made in that game.
Steve, one player that made a huge difference in the Super Bowl game was Rob Gronkowski. And after the game, he was asked what his future plans are. And he said he's going to take the next few weeks to think about it. And I know you said just recently that you aren't really looking into the big reports about the gotcha moment. But do you feel like Gronk could possibly retire in this offseason and not return with the Patriots next season?
Alex, let me tell you right now, 0% chance. I think there is no chance that Gronk retires. And the tough part with the media and the tough part with how these guys get peppered with questions after these games, Gronk is sitting up there after the toughest loss of his life. I would put that one higher than the Giants game because he was like, I mean, realistically, Gronk was like 15% for that second Giants Super Bowl, being the first Super Bowl of his career. So I got to think this one hurts Gronk more. He had a big game. He's coming off the concussion. People asking, are you going to be the same? Or things going to be different? And he goes out there and he just balls out. So I have to think this game hurt Gronk more than the other one. And it just happened 15 minutes prior. You had just lost the Super Bowl on a Hail Mary that obviously you have like a 2% chance of catching it. But technically Gronk could have caught that ball and you could have had some miracle happen and the Pats go to overtime. So I don't really put much weight into the questions that were asked to him after the game. I absolutely hate when reporters come back and ask the same thing, just kind of worded a little differently. He gave you his answer. It's too early to talk about that. The game had just ended. You're all banged up. At the end of the season, these guys have to be dead inside, physically, mentally, everything. You leave it all out on the field. I know it's a cliche, but if you get to the Super Bowl, your body is wrecked. There's absolutely no way in this day and age, in this NFL, you can make it through 16, 17, 18, 19 games and not be destroyed. So I think Gronk is going to be fine. The tough thing for him is he goes home and his house is robbed. Yeah. And that's brutal. Losing the Super Bowl and coming home and having all your stuff out of your house, taken out of your house, that's about as bad as I can possibly expect a 2-day stretch to go.
And especially coming back from that concussion from the game from 2 weeks ago as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're trying to just get back to some form of your normal self by the Super Bowl. And there's no way, if you have a concussion, I don't care what kind of concussion it is, you're not going to be the same exact guy 2 weeks later. Your head's still going to be hurting you a little bit. You're still going to have some symptoms of that. That doesn't just go away. So I think Gronk has done a great job throughout the course of his career of handling and playing with pain. And a concussion is pain. I think a lot of people kind of downgraded and downplayed the concussion as, technically his body's healthy and his legs are good. It's not like he tore an ACL or anything. A concussion's a concussion. That's going to impact you just as much as some other injuries could impact you. So I don't want them to downgrade the significance of a concussion and how much that could have, played a role in how he played on Sunday. But you got to tip your cap to Gronk. I mean, he left it all out there. He had a phenomenal game, and comes down to the Hail Mary. Again, that's a 2% play, but at least Gronk's right there. It gave you a chance, and you can only say good things about Gronk after that game.
Definitely. Steve, before I wrap up this interview, we'll switch gears and talk some baseball. I know there's a big storm coming up here in upstate New York, so it sounds foolish to talk about baseball, but 7 days away before pitchers and catchers report to spring training. Red Sox haven't really done much. I kept saying that they're basically in hibernation this offseason. They still haven't signed JD Martinez. The Yankees got Giancarlo Stanton. They have a new manager. The Red Sox have a new manager as well. What is your overall reaction to this MLB offseason, and how do you think the Red Sox and Yankees are going to compete in this upcoming baseball season?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't feel like baseball season. That's the worst part because we are 1 week away from pitchers and catchers reporting. And like you mentioned, not too pumped about a storm coming in tomorrow. Just found out about that. Not too pumped. But yeah, I mean, again, it doesn't feel like baseball season. It feels like the off season. It honestly feels like baseball is just never going to come back. I understand truck day and all that. And everyone gets all giddy and pitchers and catchers are reporting, but it feels like we're farther from baseball now than we ever have been, like the day after the Super Bowl or 2 days after the Super Bowl, because normally I'm always counting down, say by mid-January for when pitchers and catchers are reporting, and then it's really taken until right now for me to even get a little happy. I mean, it's hard to get too pumped about this Red Sox team, though. I understand you've won back-to-back AL East championships, but I throw that right out the window. That has no value to me whatsoever. The Yankees have obviously improved. Got Giancarlo Stanton. I still can't believe that's happened. I think it's going to take me the first time seeing him actually at the plate, actually hitting moonshots at Yankee Stadium to really factor in how bad that is as a Red Sox fan. But I don't know. I mean, it's going to be an interesting season. I think JD Martinez will still end up with the Red Sox. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be greatly surprised, but I would be surprised if the Red Sox don't sign Martinez. So hypothetically, if you get JD at the end of this month, maybe early March, you're looking a lot better. The lineup's looking a lot better. I don't want the Red Sox to have to bank on a lot of comeback seasons. I know they're really hoping guys like Bogarts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Hanley Ramirez, even Mookie Betts to a certain degree, they're kind of banking on them to all have, if not career years, then near it. And that can hurt you. If you're expecting 4 or 5 guys to have the best year of their career, you're not always going to get that. The Red Sox have lucked into that. Years like 2013 and 07, they were just stacked. But it's rare. It doesn't happen too often. So if you're going to bank on that, you're really dancing with the devil. So we'll see what happens with the Sox. I know Cora coming in is huge. I think he's great for the players. He's a great players manager. He's just great at handling guys. I think he's going to be more one of the guys than Perrault was. John Perrault was more of the dad in the clubhouse, and Cora is going to be more of an encourager and is going to try to get the best out of each and every player. Whereas Perrault, it's always like you don't want to upset, the big boss man. So I don't know. We're going to see how it goes. And the Yankees, I'm telling you, that lineup is dangerous. That lineup is scary. The rotation doesn't really scare me that much. I think Severino could win the Cy Young. Outside of that, Sonny Gray doesn't do much for me. Tanaka, you don't really know what you're going to get. I mean, you guys still could sign, the Yankees still could sign a starter. So I wouldn't be overly shocked if they have a different rotation opening day than what we're talking about right now. But it's going to be an interesting season. I mean, it's wild to think that so many free agents are still out there. I know one source today, I think it was one of the guys at FanRag Sports, was saying that an agent told him that most of these free agents aren't going to sign until March, which is insane. I hate every single second of that. But if it takes until March to get these guys, their landing spots, and I guess we'll just have to wait that long. But yeah, to your point, it doesn't really feel like baseball season is that close, but we are a week away from pitchers and catchers.
Mm-hmm. You talk about the Red Sox hoping that these players have career years in the upcoming season. How do you feel like the Red Sox are hoping David Price can perform in this upcoming season?
David Price, I know we talk about him on the Section 10 podcast all the time. He is something else. I think we could, during the course of the season, we basically could have a podcast on the Red Sox and another podcast on David Price. He gives you enough content by himself to do an hour show basically every other day. So who knows? I would be lying if I said I know what to expect from David Price this year. In a perfect world, he goes out there and is a reliable starter behind Chris Sale, and then you don't have to ask as much out of guys like Rick Porcello and even Drew Pomeranz. Ideally, Price is a solid 2. Do I expect him to be? I don't know. And that's not good. As a Red Sox fan, for the money that he's making, this is the last year before he has a player opt-out. So who knows? I mean, there's a lot of question marks on this roster, and David Price is one of I would say the biggest one in terms of what you're going to get. He was one, maybe 2 guys last year in the playoffs, him and Hanley Ramirez, that performed very well. So at least he closed the year strong. He's a guy that has proven he can do it in the past, but can he do it in Boston for an entire season as a starter? I have no idea. He's given us no sign to show that he can do that. We've seen glimpses of it, but I've yet to have that, let's effing go moment with David Price as a starter. At least as a reliever last year, he was lights out, and I'll give him credit for that. That was a short stint. It was really just a month and a half, but it did work. So we'll see if he can come back and be a solid number 2. If he can't, if things don't work out, to his credit, he might just stay and take the money. I don't know if he would get the same money elsewhere, but there's a lot on the line for the Red Sox this year, and there's even more on the line for David Price.
Well, Steve, I want to say thank you again for joining me on Fusion News today. And where can the Fuse Nation follow you on Twitter and read your articles online?
Yeah, for sure. I am at Steve_Perrault, and basically anything that I'm pumping out, you can find there. So, yeah, at Steve_Perrault on Twitter, and I think it's just, what am I? I think it's the same for Instagram, too, so definitely give that a look.
Perfect. Thank you again, Steve, for coming on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me, Alex. Thank you, man.
Of course, anytime. All right, Fuse Nation, you just heard it from Steve Perrault from Bleacher Report and Section 10 Podcast online. All right, Fuse Nation, I'll be going live here in just a few more minutes with Jessica Klein-Smith from the MLB.com. We'll be talking some more MLB offseason, spring training once again, 7 days away. Can't believe it. Mickey Mantle's number. All right, Fuse Nation, thanks again for watching, and I will be seeing you very soon. Thanks for watching.